You've got to be kidding me. After 17 years of loyalty, of manipulation, of building an empire together, Brock Lesnar just threw Paul Heyman away like yesterday's garbage at the Royal Rumble. And WWE expects us to just sit here and accept this. The same company that's now got Triple H absolutely fuming at Seth Rollins behind the scenes while they are losing talent left and right to AEW. Ciampa's already out the door. Who's next? Roman? Cody? This is a complete dumpster fire, and we need to talk about it right now. Let's start with the Lesnar-Heyman situation because honestly, my blood is still boiling. These two have been attached at the hip since 2001. Paul Heyman made Brock Lesnar. He was the mouthpiece, the mastermind, the advocate who turned a freakish athlete into the beast incarnate. Every promo, every negotiation, every championship run, Heyman was there orchestrating it all. And what does Brock do? He turns his back on the one man who's been in his corner through thick and thin. The reports coming out of the Royal Rumble are absolutely insane. Backstage sources say that the betrayal wasn't just a storyline decision, it was something that's been brewing for months. Apparently, there's been real tension between Lesnar and Heyman over creative direction, money, and Brock's frustration with how WWE has been booking him lately. Can you believe that? The guy who gets paid more per appearance than most wrestlers make in a year is complaining about his booking? Here's where it gets even more ridiculous. Word is that Brock walked into Triple H's office and demanded that Heyman be removed from his corner. He wanted to go solo, wanted to prove he didn't need a manager anymore. The disrespect is absolutely unreal. Paul Heyman dedicated nearly 2 decades of his life to making sure Brock Lesnar remained the most dominant force in professional wrestling, and this is the thanks he gets. Quick question for you, do you think Brock Lesnar can survive in WWE without Paul Heyman, or is this the beginning of the end for the Beast? Drop your thoughts in the comments. But wait, it gets worse. Because while Brock is burning bridges with the one person who actually cared about his career, Triple H is apparently ready to explode over Seth Rollins. Yes, you heard that right. The architect, the visionary, the guy who's been carrying Raw on his back for the better part of 2 years, is now in hot water with the head of creative. Sources close to WWE production claim that Seth has been going into business for himself during recent shows. He's been calling audibles in matches, cutting promos that weren't scripted, and worst of all, he's been openly criticizing booking decisions in the locker room. Now, we all know Seth Rollins is passionate about this business. The man literally wrestled through a torn MCL because he didn't want to let the fans down. But apparently, his passion has crossed a line in Triple H's eyes. The heat reportedly started after Seth went off-script during a Raw promo 3 weeks ago, where he took subtle shots at how WWE has been handling younger talent. He mentioned something about the company forgetting what made them special and abandoning the wrestlers who actually show up every single week. Triple H saw it as a direct challenge to his authority, and things have been icy between them ever since. And here's the kicker, multiple insiders are saying that Triple H called Seth into his office after that promo and absolutely laid into him. We're talking about a shouting match that could be heard down the hallway. Can you imagine? The Game, the cerebral assassin, the guy who's supposed to be the cool, calm, collected leader of WWE, losing his mind on one of his top stars? Question for the comment section, is Seth Rollins justified in speaking up about creative, or is he being unprofessional? Let me know below. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. While WWE is imploding from the inside with all this drama, AEW just pulled off another massive signing. Tommaso Ciampa, the Blackheart himself, has reportedly signed with All Elite Wrestling. This is absolutely huge, and it's a massive blow to WWE's credibility. Think about it. Ciampa was NXT's golden child. He had legendary feuds with Johnny Gargano that are still talked about as some of the best storytelling in modern wrestling. He was supposed to be a main roster star, a top guy who could carry SmackDown or Raw into the future. Instead, WWE misused him, stuck him in meaningless feuds, and basically wasted one of the most talented performers on their roster. And now he's going to AEW, where Tony Khan is probably already planning dream matches with MJF, with Adam Cole, with Samoa Joe. Ciampa's going to get the creative freedom he never had in WWE's main roster environment. He's going to remind everyone why he was considered one of the best in-ring workers in the entire industry. But here's what really grinds my gears about this whole situation. WWE had every opportunity to make Ciampa into a star. They saw what he could do in NXT. They saw the reactions he got from crowds. They knew he could work, he could talk, he could connect with audiences on an emotional level, and they still fumbled the bag. How many times is this going to happen? How many talented wrestlers are going to leave WWE because creative has absolutely no idea what to do with them? The list is getting embarrassingly long. FTR, both champions in AEW now. Andrade, thriving in AEW. Malachi Black, doing some of the best character work of his career. Buddy Matthews, finally getting opportunities to showcase his abilities. And now Ciampa joins that list. At what point does Triple H look in the mirror and realize that maybe, just maybe, there's a systematic problem with how WWE develops and utilizes talent? Here's a question: who do you think will be the next WWE star to jump ship to AEW? Give me your predictions in the comments. Let's circle back to the Brock and Heyman situation because there are layers to this that we need to unpack. According to multiple reports, Paul Heyman is absolutely devastated by what went down at the Royal Rumble. People who've spoken to him say he feels completely betrayed, not just professionally but personally. These two weren't just business associates, they were friends. Heyman stood by Brock through contract disputes, through part-time schedules, through everything. And the worst part? Heyman allegedly found out about Brock's decision to cut ties with him through a leaked memo. Imagine that. 17 years of partnership, and Brock couldn't even give him the courtesy of a face-to-face conversation. That's cold-blooded. That's the kind of thing that burns bridges permanently in this industry. Now, the big question everyone's asking is, what's next for Paul Heyman? Does he retire? Does he become a free agent? Does he potentially, and this is the wildest rumor circulating right now, does he potentially follow Roman Reigns if the tribal chief ever decides to explore options outside WWE? Because let's be real, if Roman's contract is up and he's not happy with creative direction, Paul Heyman would absolutely be the person to help him negotiate the biggest deal in wrestling history, whether that's with WWE, AEW, or some new promotion entirely. The Heyman free agency situation could legitimately reshape the entire wrestling landscape. This is a man who's been instrumental in creating some of the biggest stars in WWE history. Brock Lesnar, Centimeter Punk, Roman Reigns. The list goes on. Whatever company gets Paul Heyman's full attention and loyalty next is going to have a massive advantage in the wrestling war. Speaking of wars, let's talk about how this all fits into the bigger picture of WWE versus AEW. Because right now, WWE is hemorrhaging credibility. They are losing talent, they've got internal conflict with top stars like Seth Rollins, and they are making boneheaded creative decisions left and right. Meanwhile, AEW is capitalizing on every single mistake WWE makes. Tony Khan might be criticized for a lot of things: overstocking his roster, inconsistent booking, too many fact irons, but one thing he absolutely nails is making wrestlers feel valued. When someone jumps from WWE to AEW, they immediately get treated like a big deal. They get meaningful storylines, they get TV time, they get the opportunity to remind fans why they fell in love with wrestling in the first place. And that's exactly what's going to happen with Ciampa. Mark my words, within 3 months of his AEW debut, people are going to be saying, how did WWE mess this up so badly? Because that's what always happens. WWE has all the resources, all the production value, all the historical prestige, and they still can't figure out how to book compelling television consistently. Let me ask you this: do you think WWE is in a crisis right now, or is this just typical wrestling drama that will blow over? Sound off in the comments. Now, back to Triple H and Seth Rollins, because this situation has the potential to get really ugly really fast. Seth Rollins is one of the most valuable wrestlers in WWE right now. He's a former world champion multiple times over, he's reliable, he can work any style with any opponent, and fans genuinely care about his character work. Losing him would be catastrophic for WWE. But here's the thing: Seth Rollins is also at a point in his career where he doesn't need WWE as much as WWE needs him. He's made his money, he's cemented his legacy, and if he wanted to, he could absolutely negotiate a massive deal with AEW or even take time off to heal his body and spend time with his family. The power dynamic isn't as one-sided as it used to be, and Triple H needs to recognize that. The days of WWE being the only game in town are over. Wrestlers have options now, they have leverage. And if Triple H keeps trying to rule with an iron fist like Vince McMahon did, he's going to wake up one day and realize that all his top talent has walked out the door. The reports of Triple H being angry at Seth for speaking his mind are especially concerning because it suggests that WWE's leadership hasn't actually changed that much since Vince stepped down. Sure, the wrestling is better. Sure, there's more creative freedom than there was a few years ago. But if wrestlers still can't voice concerns without getting heat, then what's really changed? Here's something else to consider. Seth Rollins has always been one of the most vocal advocates for wrestlers' rights and better working conditions. He famously defended WWE on social media during the early days of AEW, arguing that WWE took care of its performers and provided opportunities that no other company could match. But if Seth is now disillusioned with the company, if he's now speaking out against creative decisions, that's a massive red flag. What does Seth know that we don't? What's happening behind the scenes that's pushed someone as loyal as the Visionary to start questioning WWE's direction? These are questions that WWE fans desperately need answers to. Question time: if Seth Rollins left WWE tomorrow, where would you want to see him go, and who would you want him to wrestle? Drop your dream matches below. Let's also address the optics of all of this happening around Royal Rumble season. This is supposed to be WWE's second biggest event of the year, the launching pad for WrestleMania season. Instead of focusing on dream matches and compelling storylines, we're talking about backstage drama, talent departures, and internal conflict. The Royal Rumble should be about surprise entrants, about rising stars getting their moment, about setting up the main events of WrestleMania. Instead, it's being overshadowed by Brock Lesnar's betrayal of Paul Heyman, by reports of Triple H's backstage meltdown, and by the news that yet another talented performer is leaving for the competition. This is a PR nightmare for WWE, and it's entirely self-inflicted. Every single one of these situations could have been handled better. Brock and Heyman's split could have been a powerful, emotional storyline if it was done right. Instead, it feels messy and disrespectful. The Seth Rollins situation could have been resolved with a simple conversation about creative differences. Instead, it's escalated into a power struggle. And Ciampa leaving? That was completely preventable if WWE had just booked him properly when they had the chance. The frustrating thing is that WWE has all the tools to succeed. They have the best wrestling roster in the world. They have unparalleled production capabilities. They have decades of history and brand recognition. They have everything they need to absolutely dominate the wrestling industry. And yet, they keep shooting themselves in the foot with terrible decision-making. And you know who suffers the most from all of this? The fans. We're the ones who invest our time, our money, and our emotions into these characters and storylines. We're the ones who show up to arenas, who buy merchandise, who watch every week hoping to see something special. And what do we get in return? Disjointed booking, wasted talent, and backstage drama that distracts from the actual wrestling. It's exhausting being a WWE fan sometimes. You want to believe that things are going to get better, that the company will learn from its mistakes and start prioritizing the things that actually matter: good storytelling, character development, and treating performers with respect. But then situations like this happen, and you're reminded that some things never change. Final question for you: what needs to change in WWE for you to have complete faith in the company again? I really want to hear your thoughts on this one. Look, I don't want to end this on a completely negative note because despite all the drama, there are still things to be excited about in wrestling right now. The Royal Rumble match itself was incredible. There were some amazing performances, some genuine surprises, and some moments that reminded us why we love this crazy business in the first place. But we can't ignore the problems. We can't just pretend that everything is fine when there are clearly serious issues that need to be addressed. Brock Lesnar turning on Paul Heyman should be a massive, career-defining moment, but instead it feels rushed and poorly executed. Tommaso Ciampa going to AEW should be a wake-up call for WWE about how they handle talent, but will they actually learn anything from it? And the Triple H Seth Rollins situation needs to be resolved before it turns into something that permanently damages WWE's relationship with one of their biggest stars. The wrestling industry is at a crossroads right now. WWE and AEW are both trying to define what the future of professional wrestling looks like, and the decisions that get made in the next few months, the next year, are going to determine which company comes out on top. Will WWE clean up the internal mess and refocus on what made them successful in the first place? Will AEW continue to capitalize on WWE's mistakes and build themselves into a legitimate rival? Will more WWE stars jump ship if they feel undervalued and underutilized? These are the questions that are going to define wrestling in 2026. And based on everything we've seen in the past few weeks, it's going to be one hell of a ride. So that's where we're at, folks. Brock Lesnar has betrayed Paul Heyman after 17 years, ending one of the most iconic partnerships in WWE history. Triple H is reportedly furious with Seth Rollins over creative disagreements and off-script promos. And Tommaso Ciampa has left WWE for AEW, joining a growing list of talented performers who decided they'd be better off somewhere else. Wrestling Zone fam, I need to hear from you. Which of these stories makes you the angriest? Are you more upset about Brock disrespecting Heyman, WWE potentially losing Seth Rollins, or the company fumbling yet another talented wrestler? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe if you want more wrestling news and analysis. This is Wrestling Zone, and I'll see you in the next one.